like if you don't understand anything here, right? So last lecture you can think of as a redundant lecture because I'm covering all things in this lecture now. So we were discussing about clustering. There were no there were two techniques, non-probabilistic and probabilistic. We have discussed non-probabilistic, like k-means clustering. And then we said that like there is something like there are two drawbacks in it. One is that always the shape is isotropic. I mean to say that circles or like spheres kind of shapes. And the second thing is that there is no fuzzy membership, like either the point belongs to one of the cluster. That is one thing. So just to overcome with all these things, we are like we are adopting the second technique known as probabilistic modeling, right? So in this probabilistic modeling, I have not shared the screen, I think. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Uh, okay. So then we said that like just to overcome with we want to go for the second technique known as probabilistic modeling, and we were having these mixtures of Gaussians, right? And this mixture of Gaussians were able to represent any kind of shape or density, right? And then we said that like just to write a probability of x, right? Assuming that there are k different clusters. So if there are k different clusters, we say that x can come from any one of them, right? So this is what we have said. So if there are like k different clusters, so the probability coming from first cluster, the probability coming from second cluster, the probability coming from third cluster, and the probability coming from fourth cluster, right? Yeah, and even seeing the probability of a cluster itself. So when you just see the what is the probability of seeing first cluster and what is the probability of seeing that x from that first cluster, you multiply it. So you will get a giant probability of what? Cluster and your x. So you are summing all these probabilities for all clusters, right? And then you get the probability of x. We have already seen this, right? I hope that there is no confusion in this. So then we said that this is like what is the goal idealistically. The data set can be provided to you in this form where there are no labels, and you are asked, you find out how many clusters are there. So you can, your idea is to recover this thing. So just to, I want to bring one more concept here, identifiability. What it says that you can find three clusters, right? But one of your friend also find three cluster, but the things will be, the labeling can be changed. For an example, for your friend, this may be blue, this may be red, and this may be green, right? So it means you, because the idea is to find out the different clusters. So there are k factorial different solutions for this, right? So, and all have the same like memberships. So you can choose one of them. I hope this point is clear to you, right? Because some of your friends say that this is the blue one, right? This is a blue one. This is a green one, and this is a red one. Still it doesn't change anything, right? Because there are still three clusters, and the membership of belonging to that cluster will still be the same, whatever it was before. So how there are k factorial ways to assign these things. So there are k factorial solutions for that, and you can choose one of them, right? So it doesn't make any large difference for that until you are very sure to be specific that I want to give this cluster a red one, and this was a blue one, and this is a green one, right? So in clustering problem, we don't have this constraint, so we can have k factorial different solutions, right? Which are all good. Then I said that like just this is a giant probability thing we have said. Okay, so just a quick recap. I have already explained you this thing, how to derive this, right? Uh, this is a probability of z, how you can write it. So it is nothing but whatever you just, if you just put 100, so it means z can have any of the, So if let's say, just to be very concrete, there are three clusters, right? There are three clusters. So putting first cluster, I am saying it is 100. Second cluster, it means my Z assignment is 010. And just to mention third cluster, I am saying 001. So it means I can have my Z vector which can take three assignments. And if I say what is the probability of the first cluster, right? 100, it means I am talking about pi1 to the power z1, right? Pi2 z2, pi3 z3, because z2 and z3 are 00. So I will left with pi1 z1, right? And hence, because z1 is 1, so I will left with pi1 only. So we have discussed all these things. So this is the probability, how you can concisely write the probability of seeing a cluster. And once you know the probability of a cluster, so given a cluster, what is the probability of seeing an X, right? So if I freeze that this is the cluster, right? If I freeze that this is a cluster, I am asking you, what do you think, what is the probability of seeing this X from this cluster? Because you know that this is a mean and there is a very covariance matrix sigma. You just put it into a density formula and you will find it out what is the probability here. So this is the concise way of writing it in the kth term, right? So whatever k is, for example, if you say my Z is 010, right? It means you're talking about given my second cluster. So if this is so it means Z2 is 1, right? It means Z2 is 1. So rest of the Z1 and Z3 will be 0. And you will left with only one term, which is this normal X given, because my Z2 is 1, so it will be mu2 and sigma 2, right? So it is a concise way of saying that your probability of seeing X from the second cluster is nothing, but you use that Wien and covariance matrix from the second cluster, and this is how you will get it, right? So then I just said that. Then I said that just to see write the probability of X, you can write it as a giant probability of X comma Z, right? X comma Z, and just marginalize over G, right? Marginalize over G. So if you write this giant probability into a chain rule, this is how you can write it. Probability of G, probability of X given Z, and then this marginalization is the same thing, right? And just I have told you that probability of G, you can write it this way. And conditional probability of X comma G, you can write this way, because the both are over the products over K. So you can just take it common, right? You can take this common, and both are having a power of zk, right? So you can take this as also common, and hence you are putting it into a product form right here. So after simplification, you get this. I have told you like in the last class. So just to recall, because as I said, that was a redundant. So I will go quickly over it just to prove that this is the same thing. Please stop me if you don't remember. So I'm saying that just to make it concrete, there are three assignments for Z. So I'm taking sigma over Z. So Z can have three assignments. So I'm saying Z can have take 100, right? 100. Then Z can take 010, and Z can take 001, right? 001. So now I need to, then I have to sum them thing, right? So I need to sum all these terms. What I am doing, I am calculating the probability of X here by marginalizing over Z. So Z means whatever the assignments for Z, I have to take all those assignments for Z and try to calculate these things and then sum up them up. So I am writing this thing here. So this is for the first time when I take when I take 100, it means I am bringing out my first term. It means pi1, and it means only first term will come pi1, and this is normal one, right? So in short, I will just say normal one, which means mu1 and sigma1. From the second term, I will get 010. It means my Z2 will be active, and hence I will get pi2 and normal 2, right? So then I will come to the third term 001. So it means I get Z3 equals to 1, and hence I will get pi3 and normal 3. So if I just sum them up, so in concisely I can write it this way. So it is nothing but it is a sigma over k, where k equals to 1, 2, 3, and then I will multiply pi ones, and then I would add pi 1 and pi 2 and 2, pi 3 and 3, right? So concisely you are writing this way. So this is how you can write probability of x. Fine. Then we have said that the other term that we have discussed was this, right? So the other term that we have discussed was this. So it is kind of a posterior distribution over Z. So think very carefully. Uh, so these are the three clusters, let's say 1, 2, 3, and I know, let's say mu1, mu2. So I know the parameters mu1, sigma 1, right? Mu2, sigma 2. So these are given, let's say mu2, sigma 2, and mu3, sigma 3, right? Mu3, sigma 3. So if somebody asks you for this x, what do you think for this given x, where what is the probability that it comes from this cluster, cluster 1, right? What do you think that this same x is coming from cluster 2, right? What do you think what this same x is coming from cluster 3? It means you are asking what is the probability of seeing a cluster which is given by z, right? So I'm asking what is the probability that it is coming from cluster 1, right? So it means you are asking if z equals to 1, 0, 0, what is the probability that this conditional probability given x, what it is the probability that it is coming from z, from cluster 1. So in general we are writing here, so you can write this z equals to 1, 0, 0 as z k equals to 1, right? This is also the same thing, z k equals to 1. It means I am saying, because this is a one hot vector encoding, I am saying that my z k equals to 1. It means I am saying that my kth component is 1, right? So if it is z1 equals to 1, it means I am talking about first cluster. If it's z2 equals to 1, I am talking about second cluster. If I am saying z3 equals to 1, I am saying that it is a third cluster. So in general, I am saying what is the probability of particular cluster it has generated this x. So it is a conditional probability, right? So what I the formula is joint probability. It means probability x comma zk. It means the particular cluster, right? Upon probability of x. You know what is the probability of x? Just I have derived it there. So probability of x is nothing but it is summation of pi 1 and 1, pi 2 and 2, pi 3 and 3, right? And 3 means like the normal for that particular. So this is the, just I have derived it here, right? This is like probability of x. Then in numerator, I just expand it like probability of seeing the cluster, right? Zk. And what is the probability of seeing x from that zk, right? X from zk, right? So zk is nothing but you are saying that what is the probability of seeing the cluster? It is nothing but pi k. And probability of seeing x from that zk is nothing but this normal cluster, normal Gaussian, because you are using the mean k and sigma k. So it means you are using kth cluster to generate the x. So this is nothing but it's a a theorem I have applied, and we are using that probability of seeing particular cluster from that x. So hence you can just one by one you can calculate the distribution. So it will be like seeing the cluster 1, seeing cluster 2, and seeing cluster 3. So there are the three probabilities, and if you sum them up, it will be one. It will be one. Hence, it is the posterior probability over the clusters once you see the x. Is this clear to you? It is a posterior probability over the clusters, like over the latent variable z, like you are trying to see like from which it is coming. This is what I have just said. Okay, very good. So your response will be quite helpful for me that if you are tuning with me or not. So please participate in a big number. So all of you are really eager to understand, and here can you just type them? Those who have already typed, it's okay. So I can see. Okay, very good. Fine. So then I said that this is a posterior probability. This is one concept. So how to calculate the posterior probability given all the parameters. Now, then we said that there is like now I am going to my old school formula, that just to estimate the parameters, we know that we have to calculate the maximum, like we have to calculate the likelihood function, and then we will maximize that likelihood function. Whatever the parameters will satisfy for that maximum thing, I will take that parameter and say that this is a maximum likelihood estimation. So that is our old school formula for machine learning. So now I want to calculate a likelihood function. So to go for likelihood function, first I say that I have a matrix X. So it means I am taking all my samples in a data set. So I put all my samples in a matrix, right? So row one is first sample, row two is second sample, row third is third sample, and like nth sample is in last row, right? So my matrix will be n by d. So if I have a x sample in d dimension, right? Then I say that each of the sample can belong to one of the cluster. So just to show that I have a latent matrix also Z. So here the matrix will be n by k, and by k means for every row I will show that which this sample belongs to which cluster. For example, first sample, which is first sample, belongs to, let's say, second cluster. So I will say 0 1 0. Then second sample, let's say second sample belongs to first cluster, then I will say 1 0 0, right? So it is just an assignment of a sample, so to the particular cluster, right? But to the particular cluster. Please note here that idealistically, I was, when the data was given to me, right? When the data was given to me, this was my approach. So that point was belonging to one of the cluster, right? For example, this is having assignment 1 0 0, right? So this green one is having assignment 0 1 0, and this blue is having assignment 0 0 1, right? But idealistic, when you trying to recover this, say this is a data set given to you, so you have formed a X matrix from it, right? So each sample is basically in a particular row. So row one, row two, row three. So there are, if there are 10,000 samples, there will be 10,000 rows, right? So there will be 10,000 rows in this. Now you want to recover the assignment for that particular cluster. So here the matrix which you will recover, which you will try to estimate or infer, that will not be a one hot vector encoding, right? Which you are now infer, which you will infer. So idealistically, it was a one hot vector, right? But when you infer from the data set, it may not result into a one hot vector encoding, because the point which is somewhere here, that is having a mix of blue and red, green and red, it may be like 0.5 for first cluster, 0.5 for second cluster, right? And 0 for third cluster, right? So it means that particular sample belongs to 50% to first cluster, 50% to second cluster, and 0% to third cluster, right? And this point here, it may be result into 0 0 1, right? So hence, once you try to infer the membership, because this is why we have adopted for probabilistic like learning, right? Probabilistic clustering. So now the membership may not result into one hot vector, right? So this is what, when we infer it. So idealistically, this is what RZ is. But when we will infer, right? When we will infer, so that it may not result in one hot vector. Okay. So now I want to construct a likelihood function. So how will I construct a likelihood function? So this is how I see it in my data set. So once somebody gives you a data set, so there are so many points in a data set. So like there are 10,000 points. So you calculate the probability of first sample. So this is P of X1, right? Second sample, third sample, it means the probability of ith sample will be probability of Xi. You multiply all those probabilities. It will be a joint probability of seeing the data set, right? So it will be I equals to 1 to 10,000. Let's say there are 10,000 samples in a data set. So you multiply all the probability for each sample. This is your likelihood function, right? given what? Given your theta. Theta is what? So if you have assumed there are k clusters, so then there will be mu1, mu2, mu k mean, and the sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma k covariance matrix, and pi 1, pi 2, pi k. There will be a probability of seeing that particular cluster. So hence, if there are k clusters, the size of the parameters will be k mean, k covariance matrix, and then you will have k this z this k probability of seeing cluster pi 1, pi 2, pi k. So then you have 3k size of that theta will be 3k, right? This is what. So for a given theta, so this is because you're constructing a likelihood function. So you assume that theta was something. So you calculate the probability of every sample. So px1, px2, pxn, until there are 10,000 samples, you calculate the probability for every sample and multiply them. Because it is a likelihood function, so you have to assume that your theta is variable here, right? This is what we had said. Do you agree with this point? It is nothing new. We have done it so many times. So I hope that this will make directly sense to you guys. So because it is a likelihood function, so we think that the parameters are variables here, and we will tune our parameters so that my probability will get increased slowly, right? Is this fine with you guys? Can you just in a number which you're really interested? Yeah, very good. Please participate. Okay, good. So now this is what we want to estimate. So this is my likelihood function. I want to estimate my thetas. Cool. So if this is a thing, then I know that the probability of 1x is like okay. So the probability of writing that x is this. I have just proved it, right? Here I have shown you the probability of seeing x is this. So just a minute. So probability of x is nothing, but you can write it this way. I just showed you. So it is one probability of seeing 1x, right? Then probability of seeing all x's, you are multiplying these all probabilities, right? You are multiplying all these probabilities, right? So this is n1, n2, nk, right? You have to multiply all these probabilities. So this is a likelihood function. And why I'm saying it is a likelihood function, because here I know that I don't know these things. So I will just try to estimate these things by maximizing this likelihood function. So I will tweak all these parameters slowly and slowly. So where it will be high, I will choose that point, choose that assignment, right? So this is my likelihood function. If I take a log of this function, this likelihood function, what I will get? So this summation will convert into a sigma, right? This summation will convert into a sigma. Is this clear to you guys, right? Why I am writing it? I hope this is totally, this is nothing new for you. If you take a log of this function, right? If you take the log of this function, what you will get? This is nothing. Product will convert into a sigma. That's it. Right? Very good. Fine. So now this is my log likelihood function. If this is my log likelihood function, we want to maximize it, right? So then if we want to maximize it, what we can take, we take the derivative with respect to pi, mu, and sigma, and then we'll maximize it, right? We would have to take a derivative. So first, let's take the derivative with respect. So this is my log likelihood function. I will take the derivative with respect to mu, right? So let's do it. So I know that the derivative of a log x is nothing but it is 1 by x, right? Log x is nothing but 1 by x. So if I take a derivative of this mu k with respect to mu k, because it is a function of a log, so first I will take 1 by this whole term, right? So this whole term will come somewhere in the denominator. And then by the chain rule, I have to take derivative with respect to this summation. So in this summation, there are k terms, but I want to take a derivative with respect to kth term. So this is first, so there are k terms, right? So first terms plus second term plus, so this is like first term plus second term plus kth term, right? Plus kth term, and finally, so if I want to take a derivative with respect to kth term, only my kth term will be active, right? So because I am taking a derivative with respect to mu k, so mu k is available in this one, right? On in the kth term. Let's say this is mu1, here mu1 was available, here mu2 was available, here mu k was available, and here mu n was available. So if I'm taking derivative with respect to mu k, so this will get they will be behave as a constant, and hence I will have to consider only this kth term, right? If I take this kth term, what will happen? This is the natural, this is the nothing but it's a normal formula, right? Formal Gaussian formula. So what I will do then, I have to take a derivative of kth Gaussian. So kth Gaussian, it is nothing but it is, once I take the exponent, right? So it is nothing but exponent into minus half, right? X minus mu k, x minus mu k transpose sigma inverse x minus mu k, right? X minus mu k. So if I take the derivative with respect to mu k, because it is exponent, so directly first exponent term will come as it is, because the derivative of exponent will be exponent. So hence if I take this, this term will come, it is nothing but it a formula of a, it is a Gaussian. So hence this term will come as it is here, right? And because it was in a product, so it will behave as a constant. So this will term also come here as it is, right? Now I have to take the derivative of this term because of the chain rule with respect to mu k, and it will give me this term, right? So finally I will get this term. So because this was a negative here, so if I take a derivative with respect to mu k, this negative will come here, right? So you just do it on with your pen and paper. I hope this all will make sense to you. So finally, if you take a derivative of this log likelihood function with respect to mu k, you will get this thing, and you put it equals to 0, right? When you put it equals to 0, this is what finally you get it, right? And if you see this red thing, right, which is highlighted by this red braces, this is nothing but it is a posterior probability of a Gaussian. Oh, it's a posterior probability of your Z latent variable, which we have just calculated here, right? So here this is a posterior probability. This is a posterior probability for Z latent variable or for kth cluster, right? So hence we are just saying that we are replacing it with the posterior probability by this symbol, and this is as it is, right? So when you simplify it, you will get this thing, right? You will get this thing. So if you want, I can just do it this one expression for you, and the rest of the things you will do. So I will try to help you out. So if you replace this thing, so you will get sigma. Just for simplification, I just this is sigma nk, right? Sigma, sorry, znk, not sigma, it is gamma, right? So it's gamma znk. So it is gamma z n k. Then you're multiplying with sigma xn, sigma xn minus mu k, and it equals to, and this is summation here, and then it equals to 0, right? So it equals to 0. This is a negative here. So you multiply both sides with negative, so this negative will become positive. If you just multiply sigma inverse for both side, right? So then this sigma inverse multiply 0 will be 0 and this sigma will go away. It is identity. So hence you will left with what? You're left with this sigma gamma znk znk xn, right, minus sigma gamma and mu k, right? So gamma znk, you just say it. So it is znk somewhere here. Then you just bring this side on the right hand side because it is 0 here. So you will get gamma znk into mu k, and it is a summation, right? Equals to summation over gamma znk into xn, right? So because this is over n, this is over n, so mu k is independent of this n. So I just write from here now, right? This way or somewhere. So now you will left, your mu k will come outside. Mu k will come outside and it is sigma over gamma znk, right? Znk equals to sigma gamma znk, right, into mu k, right? And you bring this sigma znk on the left, this in the denominator on the right hand side, and hence you will get this term, right? Because now you have just rewritten nk as sigma of gamma nk, right? So this is all, like, just to simplify it. So because you have just the in the denominator sigma gamma znk, you have replaced it with nk. So this nk is now written nicely somewhere here, and this was the right hand side. It was a summation xn into gamma znk, right? So you are like calculating this mean for the kth cluster, right? So let's see it intuitively what it says. So what I'm saying that there are some clusters, and we are calculating the mean of some kth cluster. So let's say this is a kth cluster. What it say? What it say? You just find out the membership of every x for that cluster. So this is what I'm saying. So let's say this was x. I am saying what is the probability that it belongs to this cluster 1. So let's say this is probability 0.3. What is this x belongs to cluster 2? Let's say it is 0.2. What is that x belongs to cluster 3? Let's say it is 0.5. Right? So effectively this x belongs to this first cluster by is 0.3 only, right? So hence you take every x and find it out effectively what is the membership for this cluster, right? What is the membership for this cluster? You add all those memberships, and what you will get? You will get the effective number of points in that particular cluster. You will get effective number of points in that cluster, right? So if there are 10 points, let's say if there are 3 points only. So first is 0.3, then the second is 0.2, and the third is 0.5. So if you ask me what is the effective number of points belong to this cluster, so I will say it is 0.5 plus 0.3, 0.8 plus 0.2, it is 1. And let's say there is fourth point also, and it belongs to 0.1. So then I say the total effective number belongs to this cluster is 0.5 plus 0.3 plus 0.2 plus 0.1, which is nothing, 1.1. So their effective number of points belonging to this cluster is 1.1, right? This is what this is. So this summation here is telling you what is the, sorry, this summation here is telling you what is the effective number of points belonging to that particular cluster. Just what I have said, right? This is what I have said. So this is the way to find out the effective number of points belonging to a particular cluster. Do you have any question till here? You can ask me. Right? Okay. So if you don't have any questions, so the second thing is which you can just observe it very clearly from here is this one. So if I say that there are some points which belongs to effectiveness, this is with some membership, right? With some membership. So this is, let's say, x1, this is x2, this is, let's say, x3, and this is, let's say, x4, right? So I'm saying this x1 is belong to this cluster with 0.1 probability, 0.1 probability. This is with 0.3 probability. This is, let's say, 0.5 probability. And this is, let's say, with 0.7 probability, right? So I said that total effective number of points belong to this cluster is 0.7 plus 0.1, 0.8 plus 0.3, it is like 1.1, and then 0.5, it is 1.6. The total effective number of points belonging to this cluster is 1.6, right? Now I want to say, like, what should be, where should be that, like, my mean should available for these clusters, because these x doesn't belong to with full membership. So I have to take a weighted sum. So what I do, I multiply this 0.7 with this particular x, right? So this x is somewhere in some 3-dimensional space or 2-dimensional space, right? So I will take this x vector, which is a d-dimension vector, I multiply this 0.7 with this x. Similarly, I take this my x1 vector, which is a d-dimensional vector, and I multiply this 0.1, which is a membership, with this vector. Even my x2 is at some d-dimension vector. I multiply this 0.3 with this x2, and similarly x3 is d-dimensional vector. I multiply 0.5 with this x3. It is nothing but I'm just trying to find it out, like what is the weighted sum for all these x. When I know what is the weighted sum for these x, I will divide that weighted sum by the total effective number of points, and it will give me the effective mean, right? It will give me the effective mean. So in physics, you can think it as a force, right? So if these are the forces that are applying on some x, so you want to find out what is the effective center for this particular cluster, then you can take the weighted mean. This is known as weighted mean also. So any confusion on this? Right. So if that is clear to you, then it's very simple then. So similarly, you take the sigma, right? And you find it out that it is nothing but when you take the this is the formula when you derive it in this for this particular sigma, and when you do it for this pi, this is what you will get. So, but there is a constant. If you know, remember, there is a constant on sigma on these pi's. What is the constant on these pi's? Because I know that this is the probability of seeing particular cluster. So this is there. If there are 3 clusters, so probability of seeing first cluster is pi1. Probability of seeing second cluster is pi2, right? And probability of seeing the third cluster is pi3. So what is the constant here? Can anybody tell me? What is the constant on pi? Is there any constant on pi's, right? Like of seeing of these prior probabilities of the clusters? They have to sum to 1, right? They have to sum to 1, because these are the probabilities of seeing the clusters. So first cluster, second cluster, third cluster. So the sum of these are pi1, pi2, and pi3 should be sum to 1. If there are k clusters, so either summation over these k for pi1 to pi k will be 1, because these are the probabilities of seeing particular cluster, right? Or prior probabilities of the cluster. So it is a distribution. It is a prior distribution of seeing the clusters. Is it making sense to you? Right. So these are the prior probabilities, and I have to now, if there is a constant, as I showed you in this support vector machines, that if there are the constants, so this is what you want to maximize. This is my log likelihood function. But there are some constants also. So the constant is that all sigma, all these pi k should sum up to 1 to 1, right? So this is an equality constraint. So what you will do, you just bring 1 into this left hand side. It will convert that this is summation of pi k minus 1. So this is your constant, which is equal to 0, as in support vector machine. So if you want to bring this constant with your objective function, you have to multiply it with a Lagrangian multiplier, which is nothing but it's a lambda here, right? So this is your total objective function, which you want to maximize now with this constraint, right? When you do it, you will find it out that the particular prior probability will be updated for the kth cluster is like this. What is the effective number of points in the cluster? And what are the total number of points in your data set, right? This is how you can do it. Is this fine to you guys? So you can just work it out. If you don't have any problem in deriving this thing, I will help you, right? You just can write me if you unable to do it. Otherwise, it is clearly written in your text and you can see that this thing with there very clearly. Right? If you just take a derivative with respect to, okay, I will help you. Just I can give you a direction so that you can just help yourself. So if you can take this this like objective function and take a derivative with respect to pi k. So the only thing, because you're taking a derivative with respect to pi k, so in this summation only pi kth term will be active, and because this is a summation, this is like a product lambda, so this lambda will be left and pi k will reduce to 1, right? Because the term will be like this. This is lambda into pi k, right? Lambda into pi k, and you are taking a derivative with respect to pi k. So when you take a derivative with respect to pi k, this pi k will go away and this lambda will be left only. So hence this negative 1 will be constant, it will also go away, and rest of all the summation terms will go away. And this is, I have just showed you there, like if you take a derivative, this summation, because it is a log, this summation will come somewhere down, and in the numerator you all things will be what? It is like pi k mu k, because you are taking a derivative with respect to pi k. This pi k will go away and the product term will be this normal term, and it hence it will left out. So this is how you can just write it this way. So this is in the numerator term, you left with only the normal probability density, where pi k, because you have taken a derivative with respect to pi k, so the pi k will go away. In denominator, because of this log, it will come, and this summation in lambda will come as it is, right? And when you just solve it, you will find it out that the value of this lambda equals to 1, right? And hence you just can derive this sigma pi k is equals to nothing, but it is the effective number of points belonging to the cluster divided by the total number of points, right? So it is like effective number of points. Fine. And hence you just have derived all these three things: mean, covariance, and these mixing coefficients, right? Prior probabilities, you have updated it. But if you see that very clearly, that the posterior things will be required here, this here, and to calculate the nk also, right? Because nk is nothing, the summation of effectiveness. So this posterior probability for every z is required in calculating all these three parameters: mean, covariance, and mixing coefficients. So this is how you should go, right? This is how you should go. So just a minute. So first, what you will do, you just calculate, you just the data set is given to you, right? The data set is given to you. You just randomly take some values of all the parameters. So there are like 9 parameters if there are 3 clusters, mu1, mu2, mu3, sigma1, sigma2, sigma3, pi1, pi2, pi3. So you just randomly assign some values to them and then calculate the posterior probability by fixing this sigma1, sigma2, sigma3. I would say theta, right? In short. So by fixing the theta, I can calculate the posterior probability for every x. When I calculate the posterior probability for every x, then I calculate mu1, sigma1, sigma and pi1, mu2, sigma2, pi3, mu3, sigma3, pi3, right? I will calculate all these probabilities. Then I again iterate because these are my new parameters, right? So my theta, what I have assumed first initialized with some value, it has been updated because of this step. Now I get my new theta. With new theta, what I will do, I calculate my posterior probability again. And when I calculate my posterior probability again, then I will recalculate my theta and hence I will go cyclically on this. So first I calculate my posterior probability. So this is known as E step when I calculate the posterior probability. And with these posterior probabilities, I will calculate my new values of theta 1, theta 2, my new values of theta, right? And hence I will alternate it. The more, and I will alternate it till my theta will uh, stop updating, right? So it will come when theta, for some iteration, theta will be same, right? For some iteration. And then I will stop, right? This is what it is. So I will keep on alternating in this thing. And if you just want to see like how it will work, so you start with this thing the same way where what we had did for k-means clustering. So we started that this is my first mu1 and this is my mu2, right? And the covariance matrix for the initialization, we have taken isotropic covariance matrix. We have taken it as circular. And for first iteration, we calculated a mean, right? Posterior probabilities. For posterior probability, we have seen that this is like half shaded things come in between, right? Because we have calculated the posterior probabilities and then we calculated the maximization. So we have calculated new thetas. Once we calculated a new thetas, using these new thetas, we calculated again this posterior probability and then further thetas. And we keep on cycling this thing. And after 20 cycles, we will be finding that there are there is the covariance matrix is this one and the mean one, mean two will be this one, right? So after 20 cycles, you will left this. So if you remember when we do k-means clustering in 6 iteration, you had converged, and here you will take almost 620 cycles, right? So these are the things. So you have to do it in your this Python code. You have to implement it using your Python code. I will help you out by giving your initial template for the code. So if you have any problem, please let me know. Otherwise, I upload this lecture and you can ask the questions tomorrow at the beginning of the class. Okay, if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, you can drop your attendance and let me know. Okay. Thank you.